10 years living under the same roof. I'm still struggling, jobless, while he is the kind of man every woman dreams of landing. Just when everyone thought our story had hit a dead end, I decided to make my final move. But this journey from Miss to Mrs. hides a tale of sacrifice so deep it'll give you absolute goosebumps. But the real questions are, why would he ignore the glitz of New York and the attention of countless women just to choose a messy, chaotic life with me? After a whole decade where I had nothing to offer him, what invisible bond, or perhaps what hidden tragedy, kept him holding on? Is the sacrifice I'm talking about just pure love, or is there a darker secret buried beneath the surface? And ultimately, where does this unlikely love story actually end? I'm Sneha, and today I'm here to unravel the mystery behind this strange emotional roller coaster. Let's dive in and get the full story. The radiator in the corner of the room hissed and sputtered, a dying metallic animal fighting against the brutal New York winter. I sat by the window, wrapping the fraying wool blanket tighter around my shoulders, staring out at the grey, slush-covered streets of Brooklyn. It was January 15th, 2025. 10 years? Exactly 1 decade had passed since I let him into my life. 10 years since the calendar read 2015, back when I was bright-eyed, full of dreams, convinced that this city was waiting to crown me its queen. But looking at my reflection in the cold glass now, I didn't see a queen. I saw a woman pushing 30 with dark circles carved under her eyes like permanent bruises, a bank account that hovered dangerously close to zero, and a career that never actually started. And then there was him. I turned my head slowly. The studio apartment was small, claustrophobic really, but he made it feel like a palace just by being in it. He was standing by the kitchenette, carefully pouring hot water over a cheap tea bag in a chipped mug. The steam rose around his face, softening his features. God, he's beautiful. And I don't mean that in a cliche romance novel way. I mean it in a way that was almost unsettling. He had the kind of face you'd expect to see on a billboard in Times Square, modelling watches that cost more than my entire life's earnings, sharp jawline, eyes that were a deep, unreadable brown, and a smile that could disarm a SWAT team. He was charming, articulate, and moved with a grace that suggested he belonged in a penthouse on Park Avenue, sipping scotch with Wall Street tycoon. Yet here he was in a drafty 4th floor walk-up in Bushwick, making generic brand tea for a girl who couldn't even afford to fix the heater. Here, he said, his voice low and smooth like velvet over gravel. He walked over and placed the mug in my hands. His fingers brushed mine. They were warm, too warm. Thanks, Liam, I whispered. He sat on the floor beside my chair, resting his head against my knee. It was a gesture of submission, of adoration. He looked up at me, and for a second my breath hitched. You look tired, babe, he said. Stop worrying about the rent. We'll figure it out. We. He always said we. But it was never really we, was it? It was me failing and him watching. It was me struggling to sell a single painting, struggling to get a freelance writing gig, struggling to just exist, and him standing there perfectly content with my mediocrity. Why? The question gnawed at me, a parasite living in the back of my brain. Why had he stayed? Since 2015, he had been my shadow. He had seen me at my absolute worst, and he had held my hair back while I vomited from stress-induced migraine. He had walked me home when I couldn't afford the subway fare. He had listened to me scream and cry and throw things when rejection emails piled up in my inbox. In 10 years, he had never asked for anything, not once. Most guys in this city, they want something, and they want a trophy girlfriend, or they want someone to split the bills with, or they want a stepping stone to something better. But Liam, he never asked for the fancy dinner. He never hinted that he wanted a PS5 or a vacation to Tulum. He didn't even ask for a decent birthday present. I remembered last week we were walking past a bakery in Manhattan, one of those high-end places where a single eclair costs $12. I saw him looking at it, just a glance, a flicker of desire in his eyes. Do you want one? I had asked, clutching my purse, mentally calculating if I had enough cash. He had turned to me, that perfect practice smile sliding onto his face instantly. No, he said softly. I'm good. Let's just go home and make toast. He settled for toast. He always settled for toast. Why would a man who could charm any woman in this city, any high-profile corporate lawyer, any trust fund heiress, settle for burnt toast and a girlfriend who was a walking disaster? I looked down at him now. He had closed his eyes, resting his cheek against the denim of my jeans. He looked peaceful, angelic almost. But there was something else, something I rarely admitted to myself, even in the dead of night. It was the way he loved me. It was too intense. It was suffocatingly perfect. He didn't just love me, he consumed me. He wanted to be around me 24 hours a day. If I went to the grocery store, he wanted to come. If I sat in the bathroom to take a shower, he would sit outside the door just to make sure I was okay. I just want to see you, he would say. I want to see your face for 16 hours a day. I want to watch you sleep. I want to be the last thing you see before you dream. At first, in the honeymoon phase of 2015, it was romantic. It felt like I was the main character in a movie. But now, in 2025, with the weight of a decade pressing down on us, it felt heavy. I stroked his hair and it was soft, thick. Liam, I said, breaking the silence. He didn't open his eyes. Do you ever regret it? He opened his eyes then, those dark, abyssal eyes locked onto mine. There was no confusion, no hesitation, just a laser focus that made the hair on my arm stand up. Regret what, Sneha? This. I gestured around the shabby room. Me, us. You could have had a life, Liam, a real life. You're smart, you're handsome. You could be running a company by now. Instead, you're here waiting for me to make something of myself. He didn't blink. He rarely blinked when he looked at me like this. You are my life, he said. The tone was flat, factual, like he was stating that the sky is blue or water is wet. There is nothing out there for me. Everything I need is right here in this room. I forced a smile, but my stomach twisted. Everything he needs? What kind of man needs poverty? What kind of man needs a partner who hasn't contributed a dime to their savings in 6 months? I promise, I said, my voice shaking slightly. I promise, the moment I get that job at the gallery or the moment my book sells, I'm going to give you everything. I'm going to buy you the world, Liam. I'll make up for all these years. He slowly rose from the floor. He moved with that fluid, predatory grace, silent, controlled. He leaned in, his face inches from mine. I could smell his scent, rainwater and something metallic, like old copper. He placed his hands on either side of my face. His thumbs traced my cheekbones. I don't want the world, Sneha, he whispered, his breath hitting my lips. I just want you to stay exactly as you are. Exactly as I am. Broken, needy, dependent on him. A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the drafty window. Was that it? Did he love me because I was a failure? Did he feed off my helplessness? I love you, I said, purely out of habit. It was the safety word, the phrase that kept the darkness at bay. I love you more, he replied, more than you could ever understand. He kissed my forehead, a lingering, possessive press of his lips, and then pulled away. I'm going to the bodega. We need milk. Okay, I said. He grabbed his coat and headed for the door. He paused with his hand on the knob, looking back at me. For a split second, the light from the hallway hit his face in a weird way. His expression wasn't soft. It wasn't loving. It was calculating. It was the look of a man who was checking the locks on a cage. And then the mask was back. He smiled, that dazzling, perfect smile. Back in 10 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. He said it every time he left, as if I had anywhere else to go. The door clicked shut. I heard the heavy deadbolt slide into place. He always locked it from the outside with his key. He said it was for my safety because the neighbourhood was rough. I sat there in the silence, the steam from the tea fading. I felt lucky. I told myself that every day. I am the luckiest girl in New York. My friends told me I was crazy to ever doubt him. He's a saint, Sneha, they'd say over cheap wine. He worships the ground you walk on, so why did I feel like I was suffocating? I stood up and walked over to the small desk where his laptop sat, and he rarely used it, and when he did, he always angled the screen away from me. He said he was just browsing news or looking for odd jobs. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the 10-year milestone. Maybe it was the way he had looked at me just now. I opened the laptop. It was password protected, of course. I stared at the prompt. I tried his birthday. Incorrect. I tried my birthday. Incorrect. I tried the date we met. Incorrect. I sighed, ready to close it. I was being paranoid. I was sabotaging the only good thing in my life because I felt guilty about my own failures. That's what depressed people do, right? They push away the light. My finger hovered over the power button to shut it down, but then I noticed something. Next to the laptop, tucked under a pile of unpaid utility bills, was a small black notebook. It wasn't new, the leather was worn, the edges frayed. I had never seen it before. Liam didn't write, he didn't journal, he didn't keep a diary. He was a man of the present, never talking about the past, never planning too far into the future. My heart hammered against my ribs. The apartment was dead silent, save for the radiator's hiss. 10 minutes, he had said he would be back in 10 minutes. I reached out, my hand trembling, and pulled the notebook from the stack. It felt heavy in my hand, heavier than paper should feel. I opened the first page. There was no name, no contact info, just a date written in sharp, jagged handwriting that didn't look like Liam's smooth script at all. October 14th, 2015. My breath caught in my throat. That was the day we met. The day I bumped into him at Central Park, spilling my coffee all over his shirt. The day he laughed and asked for my number instead of getting angry. I traced the date with my finger. Underneath it, there was a single sentence written in red ink. Target acquired, integration phase begins. I froze. The words blurred before my eyes. Target, integration. I flipped the page frantically. December 2016. Subject is becoming emotionally dependent. Isolation from family is 60% complete. July 2019. Career sabotage successful. She believes it was bad luck. Her confidence is breaking. She needs me now more than ever. August 2024. She is almost ready. The vessel is nearly prepared. The book fell from my hands, hitting the floor with a thud that sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. I stared at the black notebook lying on the dusty floorboards. My blood ran cold. The warmth of the tea was gone. The warmth of his love was gone. This wasn't a diary, it was a logbook, a mission report. For 10 years, I thought I was the lucky girl who found a prince in the chaos of New York. I thought I was living a fairy tale. But as I heard the heavy footsteps coming up the stairs, slow, rhythmic, familiar footsteps, I realised the terrifying truth. I wasn't his girlfriend. I wasn't his partner. I was his project. And the lock on the door, it wasn't to keep the world out. It was to keep me in. The footsteps stopped outside the door. The key slid into the lock with a metallic click. The doorknob turned. I looked at the notebook on the floor. I looked at the door. It was too late to hide it. The bolt slid home with a finality that echoed in my bones. Click, panic, cold and sharp, flooded my system. I didn't think. I reacted. My foot lashed out, kicking the black leather notebook hard. It skid across the warped wooden floorboards and disappeared underneath the sagging armchair just as the door swung open. Liam stepped in. A gust of freezing Brooklyn wind followed him, swirling around my ankles. I'm back, he announced, shaking the snow off his dark coat. He looked at me. I was standing in the middle of the room, frozen, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I forced my lips to curve upwards. I needed to smile. I needed to look like the naive, loving girlfriend I had been 5 minutes ago. Hey, I managed to say. My voice sounded thin, brittle. That was fast. Liam didn't move immediately. He stood by the door, his eyes scanning the room. He was like a shark entering new water, sensing vibrations and testing the current. His gaze swept over the desk, the closed laptop, and then landed on me. Are you okay? He asked, tilting his head. You look pale, paler than usual. Just a headache. I lied, rubbing my temples. My hands were trembling, so I shoved them into my hoodie pockets. The radiator noise is getting to me. He stared at me for a beat too long. Then the tension broke. He smiled, that warm, devastating smile that had anchored me for a decade. I got the milk and I got you a Kit Kat. I know they help with the headache. He tossed the candy bar onto the desk. It landed inches from where the notebook had been. Thanks, I whispered. I'm going to make some grilled cheese, he said, taking off his coat. Why don't you go lie down for a bit? I nodded, feeling bile rise in my throat. Yeah, I think I will. I turned and walked into the bathroom, locking the door behind me. I turned on the faucet, letting the water run loud to drown out the sound of my ragged breathing. I gripped the porcelain sink, staring at my reflection. My eyes were wide, terrified. I looked like a stranger. Target acquired. The words from the notebook burned in my mind. I closed my eyes and suddenly the cramped bathroom dissolved. The smell of mildew and old pipes was replaced by the scent of roasted nuts and decaying leaves. I was back there. Central Park, October 14th, 2015. It was a Wednesday. I remembered it because I had just skipped my shift at the coffee shop to go sketch near Bow Bridge. I was 22, wearing a thrifted denim jacket and Doc Martens, convinced I was the next Frida Kahlo. The narrative I had told everyone, my parents, my friends, even myself, was a romantic comedy, meet cute. I was walking, distracted by the fall foliage. I turned a corner. Bam! I collided with a tall, handsome stranger. My coffee went flying. He caught my arm to steady. We laughed. Sparks flew. But now I replayed the tape in my head, stripping away the rose-coloured filter of nostalgia. I saw myself walking down the path. I had my sketchbook clutched to my chest. I was walking fast, and there he was. He wasn't walking. He was standing by a bench, perfectly still. He wasn't looking at his phone. He wasn't looking at the lake. He was looking at his watch. Then, as I approached, he started moving. He didn't just walk. He intercepted. I rewound the memory again, the collision. I didn't bump into him. He stepped into my path. It was subtle, a matter of inches, but it was deliberate. He had timed it. He had waited for me to turn that specific corner. And the coffee spill. Oh my God, I am so sorry, I had gasped, frantically dabbing at his grey cashmere sweater with a napkin. He hadn't looked at the stain, he had looked directly into my eyes. It's fine, he had said. His voice was calm, too calm. Most New Yorkers would have cursed or at least looked annoyed. Liam looked satisfied. I'm Sneha, I had said, extending a hand. I know, he had replied. My eyes snapped open in the bathroom mirror. The water was still running. I know, he had said, I know. Back then, in 2015, I had laughed it off. He had quickly corrected himself, saying, I know a good place to get a replacement coffee nearby. He was so smooth, so charming, that I missed the slip-up. But he did know how. I wasn't famous. I wasn't anyone. I was a nobody from Queens. I sank down onto the cold tile floor of the bathroom, pulling my knees to my chest. I thought about our first date 2 days later. We went to a small Italian place in the village. I remembered feeling like I had won the lottery. He listened to me talk for hours. I want to be a painter, I had told him, eyes shining. But my dad wants me to go to law school. You shouldn't, Liam had said intensely, leaning over the candlelit table. You have a gift, Sneha. You shouldn't let anyone stifle that. You need to focus on your art. Cut out the distractions. Cut out the noise. Cut out the noise. That meant my friend. That meant my family. By 2016, I had stopped talking to my best friend, Sarah, because Liam said she was jealous of my potential. By 2017, I moved out of my parents' house because Liam said they were toxic for my creative process. He hadn't forced me. He hadn't forbidden me. He had manipulated me. He had whispered poison in my ear and called it medicine. Integration phase. He had isolated me. Methodically, surgically, he cut away my support system piece by piece until he was the only thing left. And then the failure. The gallery showcase in 2018, the one that was supposed to be my big break. The night before the show, the fire sprinklers in my studio malfunctioned. All my canvases were ruined. I was devastated. I cried for days. Liam was there. He held me. It's okay, baby. Maybe the universe is telling you to wait. You don't need them. You have me. I remembered the look on his face that night. I thought it was empathy. Now I realised it was triumph. Had he set off the sprinklers? Had he sent the rejection emails from the publishers? Had he sabotaged the interview I had with that art magazine? My stomach churned violently. I felt like I was going to throw up. The man sleeping in my bed, the man I wanted to marry, the man I had dedicated my entire youth to, he was a monster. A carefully constructed, beautiful monster. But why? That was the question that terrified me the most. If I was rich, I would understand. If I had political connections, I would understand. But I was nothing. I was a broke, failing artist. What was the value in destroying? Sneha! Liam's voice came from right outside the bathroom door. I jumped, my heart stopping. Babe, the grilled cheese is ready. Are you okay in there? I scrambled to my feet. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to wash away the terror. I grabbed a towel and patted my skin dry. Coming! I called out. My voice sounded a little stronger. Survival instinct was kicking in. I couldn't let him know if he knew I found the notebook. Well, I didn't know what he was capable of, but a man who spends 10 years running a psyop on a girl isn't going to just let her walk away. I opened the door. Liam was standing in the hallway, leaning against the wall. He had changed into a t-shirt. His arms were crossed. He looked relaxed, but his eyes were sharp. You were in there a while, he said. Stomachache, I said, walking past him towards the living area. I needed to get to that chair. I needed to get the notebook before he saw it. The smell of melted butter and toasted bread filled the small apartment. It used to smell like home. Now it smelled like a trap. I sat down in the armchair, the one hiding the notebook underneath. I could feel the leather spine of the book against the back of my heel. It was there, safe for now. Liam handed me a plate. Eat! I took a bite. It tasted like cardboard. So, Liam said, sitting on the sofa opposite me. He watched me chew. I was thinking about us. I stopped chewing. What about us? 10 years, he mused. It's a long time. You posted something on that Facebook group today, didn't you? I froze. I hadn't told him about the post. How did you know? He shrugged, taking a bite of his own sandwich. I saw it on my feed. Someone shared it. It was sweet. Mr. Mrs. Is that what you want? He was baiting me. I don't know, I stammered. I was just being emotional. Liam set his plate down and he leaned forward, elbows on his knees. The air in the room grew heavy. You know, Sneha, he said softly. I remember the day we met, Central Park. The leaves were orange. You were wearing that oversized denim jacket. Yeah, I said, my throat dry, and I spilled coffee on you. Right, he nodded. You were so clumsy, so chaotic, he paused. But you know what I remember most? What? I remember thinking, he stared right into my soul. I remember thinking that you looked like a blank canvas. Perfect for painting. The metaphor hung in the air, twisted and dark. Painting what? I whispered. A masterpiece, he said, or a tragedy. Depends on the artist, doesn't it? He stood up then, walking over to the window. It's going to snow heavily tonight. A blizzard is coming. They say the roads will be blocked. No one getting in, no one getting out. He turned back to me, his silhouette framed by the grey light of the dying day. We're going to be all alone, Sneha. Just you and me. For days. He smiled. But this time the smile didn't reach his eyes. His eyes were dead. I think it's time we move to the next phase, he said. My heel pressed harder against the notebook under the chair. The next phase. The notebook had said August 2024. She is almost ready. The vessel is nearly prepared. What phase is that? I asked, my voice barely audible. Liam walked over to the closet. He reached up to the top shelf, the shelf I couldn't reach, the one where he kept his old winter gear. He pulled down a box, a metal box. He set it on the coffee table between us. The truth phase, he said. He unlatched the box. Inside there were no winter clothes. There was a stack of photos. Photos of me. But they weren't photos from the last 10 years. They were photos of me from high school. Photos of me as a child. Photos of me sleeping in my childhood bedroom in Queens, taken from the window. Photos dated 2010, 5 years before I met him. I couldn't breathe. The room spun. He hadn't found me in 2015. He had been watching me since I was 15 years old. Liam picked up a photo. One of me laughing at a sweet 16 party I barely remembered. You have no idea who you really are, do you, Sneha? He asked quietly. I tried to stand up, but my legs wouldn't work. The fear was paralysing. Who are you? I gasped. Liam looked at the photo, then at me. Me? I'm just the guardian, he said. But you are the key. He reached into the box again. This time, his hand didn't come out with a photo. It came out with a syringe, a small glass vial filled with a clear blue liquid. And it's time for your medicine. The blue liquid inside the glass vial swirled, catching the dim light of the apartment like a trapped ocean. It was beautiful in a sick, twisted way. A vivid electric azure. Your medicine, Liam repeated, his voice devoid of malice, which made it infinitely more terrifying. He held the syringe with the delicate precision of a surgeon or an executioner. I scrambled backward, my heels digging into the cheap rug, pushing myself deep into the armchair until my spine hit the cushion. The air in the room felt suddenly thin, as if the blizzard outside had sucked all the oxygen out of Brooklyn. Stay back, I warned, my voice trembling but loud. I grabbed the first thing my hand could find, the heavy ceramic mug from the side table. Don't come near me, Liam, I swear to God, I'll scream. Liam paused. He didn't look threatened. He looked disappointed, like a parent dealing with a toddler throwing a tantrum. Screaming won't help, Sneha, he said calmly. The walls in this building are thick pre-war brick, and the wind outside is howling at 40 miles per hour. No one will hear you, and even if they did, do you really think anyone cares? He took a step forward. The floorboards creaked under his weight. Why are you doing this? I choked out, gripping the mug so hard my knuckles turned white. You said you loved me 10 years, Liam. You slept in this bed. You held me when I cried. Was it all a lie? None of it was a lie, he said softly. I do love you. I love you so much that I dedicated my entire existence to keeping you safe and to keeping you contained. The word hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. What is that? I pointed the mug at the syringe. What do you want to put in me? It's a stabilizer, he said, tapping the side of the vial. You're getting agitated. Your memories are leaking. The barrier is thinning. And if I don't give you this, the noise will come back. And if the noise comes back, they will find us. Who are they? I shouted. There is no they. There's just you, me, and this psychotic game you're playing. He sighed, a long, weary sound. You're not ready for the truth yet. The integration isn't stable. That's why you're failing. I'm failing because I'm a bad artist, I yelled, tears streaming down my face. I'm failing because I have bad luck. Liam stopped. A small, chilling smile played on his lip. Luck? He chuckled darkly. Oh, Sneha. My sweet, naive Sneha. Do you really think luck had anything to do with it? He lowered the syringe slightly, his eyes gleaming with a manic pride. Do you remember the gallery in Chelsea? The one that was going to feature your Urban Decay series in 2018? My breath hitched. The sprinklers ruined the paintings. I triggered the alarm, Liam said simply. I bribed the night guard $200 to look the other way, and I held a lighter to the sensor. My mouth fell open. The mug in my hand felt heavy, like a stone. And the job at the publishing house, he continued, taking another step. The one you wanted so badly. You thought you missed the interview call. I was in the shower, I whispered. I deleted the voicemail. He corrected. And I blocked the number. Why? I screamed, the betrayal cutting deeper than any knife. Why would you ruin me? We were broke. We were struggling. If I had that job, we could have moved out of this dumb... Because, Liam hissed, his voice suddenly dropping to a predatory growl. Success implies movement. Success means travel. Success means meeting new people. Success means you leaving me. He stopped inches from the coffee table. I gave you the golden handcuffs, Sneha. Not made of gold, but made of love. I made sure you failed so that I could be the only one to comfort you. I made sure you were poor so that my meagre salary felt like a fortune to you. I made you small so I could keep you. The realisation hit me like a physical blow. Every time I cried on his shoulder, thanking him for being the only one who believed in me. He was laughing inside. He wasn't my saviour. He was my jailer. He had clipped my wings and then praised me for crawling. You're sick, I whispered. I'm necessary, he replied. Now, give me your arm. No! I threw the mug. I aimed for his head, but my hand was shaking too much. The heavy ceramic smashed into his shoulder, coffee dregs splattering onto his white t-shirt. He didn't flinch, he didn't even blink, and he just looked at the stain, then back at me. That was a mistake, he muttered. He lunged. He moved faster than any human should be able to move. 1 second, he was by the table. The next, he was on top of me. I tried to kick him to scratch his eyes out, but he was incredibly strong. It wasn't gym strength, it was wiry, industrial strength. He pinned my wrist to the arms of the chair with one hand. His grip was like a steel vice. Get off me! I shrieked, thrashing wildly. Shh, he cooed, bringing the syringe closer to my neck. It's just a little pinch. Then you'll sleep. When you wake up, we'll be somewhere else, somewhere safe up north. Help! I screamed, hoping, praying that Mrs. Kowalski next door could hear me through the storm. Someone help me! Mrs. Kowalski isn't home, Liam whispered in my ear. I sent her a fake notice that her son was in the hospital in Jersey. She left an hour ago. He had planned everything. Every variable, every exit. The needle was inches from my jugular. I could see the sharp silver tip. I needed to do something, anything. My eyes darted around the room. The metal box, the box of photos was still on the coffee table, just within reach of my foot. With a surge of adrenaline, I brought my knee up and kicked out as hard as I could. Not at Liam, but at the table. The coffee table flipped. The metal box went flying. It hit the floor with a deafening clang, spilling photos and documents everywhere. But more importantly, the table leg clipped Liam's shin. He grunted in pain, his grip on my wrists loosening for a fraction of a second. That was all I needed. I yanked my hands free, shoved his chest with all my might and scrambled out of the chair. I fell onto the floor, scraping my knees, but I didn't stop. I crawled, then ran toward the kitchenette. Sneha, stop! Liam roared. It was the first time in 10 years I had heard him raise his voice. It wasn't a human sound, it sounded like a beast in pain. I grabbed the longest knife from the magnetic strip on the wall, a bread knife, serrated, sharp. I spun around, pointing it at him. Stay back, I panted. I will kill you, Liam, I swear. Liam stood up slowly, rubbing his shin. The syringe was still in his hand, but undamaged. He looked at the knife, then at me with an expression of profound sadness. You can't kill me, Sneha, he said softly. You've tried before. My blood ran cold. What? You don't remember? He said, taking a step toward the kitchen. That's why you need the medicine, to suppress the cycles. This isn't the first time we've had this conversation. It's just the first time in this iteration. My head began to swim. The room tilted slightly to the left. Iteration, cycles. You're lying. I slurped. My tongue felt thick, heavy. Wait, why was my tongue heavy? I blinked. My vision blurred. The sharp edges of the knife in my hand started to look fuzzy. My legs felt like they were made of lead. Liam, I mumbled, the knife tip drooping. What did you do? Liam stopped walking. He just stood there watching me with that calm, patient look. The tea, he said gentle. You didn't think I'd rely solely on a needle, did you? The tea. Chapter 1. He was standing by the kitchenette, carefully pouring hot water over a cheap tea bag. I drank it, I whispered, horror washing over me. I drank it before you left for the store. It takes about 20 minutes to kick in. Liam checked his watch. Right on schedule. The syringe is just a booster, a fast-acting sedative for the transport. No! I tried to lunge at him with the knife, but my body rebelled. My knees buckled. I collapsed onto the linoleum floor of the kitchen. The knife clattered out of my hand, sliding away across the tile. I tried to crawl toward it, but my arms wouldn't lift. It felt like gravity had increased tenfold. Liam walked over to me. All I could see were his boots, heavy black combat boots. He crouched down. His face swam into view. He wasn't angry. He wasn't gloating. He looked loving, sickeningly loving. He brushed a strand of hair away from my face. My eyelids were so heavy I couldn't keep them open. Why? I managed to whisper, a single tear leaking out. I'm nobody. You are everything, he replied. You are the only successful prototype, and I can't let them have you back. Prototype. The word echoed in my fading consciousness. He slid his arms under me, lifting me up as easily as if I were a child. I rested my head against his chest. I could hear his heartbeat. It was slow, too slow. Thump, thump, thump. Go to sleep, my love, he whispered into my hair. When you wake up, we'll be home. He carried me toward the door. As my eyes fluttered shut, I saw the metal box on the floor one last time. The photos were scattered. One photo had landed face up near the overturned table. It wasn't a photo of me. It was a photo of Liam, but he was wearing an old-fashioned military uniform, sepia-toned, and the date, handwritten in the corner, wasn't 2015 or 2010. It read 1945. My brain tried to process it. Liam looked exactly the same jawline, the same eyes, the same age, 80 years ago. You can't kill me, you've tried before. Darkness swallowed me whole. The first thing I noticed was the sound, thump, squeak, the rhythmic, hypnotic beat of windshield wipers fighting a losing battle against heavy snow. I tried to open my eyes, but my eyelids felt like they'd been glued shut. My head was throbbing, a dull, rhythmic ache that synchronized with the wipers. My mouth tasted like cotton and copper, the aftertaste of that damned tea. Don't try to move yet, a voice said, smooth, calm, familiar. Liam, my eyes flew open, or at least I tried to force them open. The world was a blur of motion and darkness. We were in a car, moving fast. The heater was blasting hot air against my legs, but I could feel the cold radiating from the glass window beside me. I blinked once, twice, trying to clear the fog in my brain. We weren't in a taxi. We weren't on the subway. I was sitting in the passenger seat of a luxury SUV, leather seats, sleek dashboard. The soft blue glow of a GPS navigation screen was the only light in the cabin. I turned my head slowly. My neck cracked. Liam was driving. He looked different. The slouching, humble boyfriend who wore thrift store flannels was gone. He was sitting upright, one hand casually resting on the steering wheel, the other holding a travel mug. He was wearing a black tactical turtleneck and a heavy wool coat that looked expensive. He looked like a soldier or a spy, something worse. My voice was a croak. I tried to clear my throat. Where are we? Interstate 87, Liam answered, his eyes fixed on the white lines of the highway disappearing under the blizzard. Heading north, we just passed Albany. Albany, that was hours away from the city. Stop the car, I whispered. I tried to reach for the door handle, but my arms felt heavy, uncoordinated. The drug, it was still in my system. I can't do that, Sneha, he said, his voice maddeningly gentle. The roads are icing over. If I stop now, we might get stuck, and we can't afford to be found. You drugged me, I said, and the memory crashed back into my mind. The tea, the syringe, the photos, the picture of him from 1945. I sedated you. he corrected. There's a difference, and you saw something you weren't supposed to see. The photo, I murmured. You were in a uniform. It was old. Liam tightened his grip on the steering wheel and the leather creaked. History is a matter of perspective. Photography captures light. Sometimes light lingers longer than it should. Stop talking in riddles, I shouted, or tried to. It came out as a slur. Who are you? You're not Liam. You're a monster. I am the man who washed your dishes for 10 years, he snapped. The mask slipped for a second, revealing a flash of irritation. I am the man who rubbed your feet after your shifts. I am the man who starved with you so you wouldn't feel alone. Don't you dare call me a monster. Everything I did to keep you off the radar. Off whose radar? The architect. The name sent a chill through the car that had nothing to do with the snow. He checked the rearview mirror. We need gas and coffee. You need to wake up fully before we reach the safe house. The crossing requires you to be conscious. The crossing. He pulled the car off the highway, taking an exit toward a desolate service station. The sign flickered ominously. Gas, food, lodging. The lights were dim, buzzing against the storm. He parked the SUV near the pumps. The engine purred. Silence. Liam turned to me. He leaned in. His face inches from mine. He didn't look crazy. He looked desperate. Listen to me very carefully, Sneha, he said. Oh, I have to go inside to pay. My cards are burned. I have to use cash. Do not open this door. Do not try to run. Your legs won't support you yet. If you step out into this storm in your condition, you will freeze to death in 10 minutes. Do you understand? I stared at him, hate burning in my chest. I didn't answer. Do you understand? He repeated, his voice harder. Go to hell, I whispered. He sighed, brushed my cheek with his thumb, a gesture that used to make me melt, now made me recoil, and opened his door. The wind howled as he stepped out. Snow swirled into the cabin before he slammed the door shut. I watched him walk toward the convenience store. He moved with that same predator's grace, scanning the perimeter, checking the shadows. He disappeared inside the store. I was alone. My heart hammered against my ribs. Think, Sneha, think. My legs were useless jelly, but my hands were coming back. I flexed my fingers. They tingled. I couldn't run. He was right about the cold. I was wearing leggings and a hoodie. I wouldn't last a mile in this blizzard. But I needed answers. I needed to know what I was dealing with. I looked around the car. It was spotless, sterile, no personal items, no gum wrappers, no receipts. It was like a rental or a company car. My eyes landed on the glove compartment. It was a cliche. The first place anyone looks in a movie, but cliches exist for a reason. I leaned forward, fighting the dizziness, and popped the latch. It opened. Inside there was a flashlight, a map of Canada, and a thick manila envelope. It was unmarked, no stamp, no return address, just a heavy, sealed package. I glanced at the store. Liam was at the counter, talking to the attendant. He was pointing at something on the shelf. I had maybe 2 minutes. I grabbed the envelope. My fingers fumbled with the clasp. I ripped it open. Contents spilled onto my lap. The first thing I saw were passports. 3 of them. I picked up the first one. It was a dark blue American passport. Name, Liam Anderson. DOB, June 12th, 1992. Photo, the Liam I knew. I picked up the second one. It was older, a faded green cover. Name, William H. Geller. DOB, June 12th, 1920. Photo, the same face, the same eyes, but the hairstyle was different, slick back, 1940s style. I picked up the third. It was brittle, looking like parchment. It wasn't a passport. It was identification papers for a steamboat passage. And name, Liam Vance. Year, 1890. Photo, a sepia tint, a man with a thick moustache, but the bone structure, it was him. It was undeniably him. My breath came in shallow gasps. He doesn't age. He wasn't just lying about his job or his family. He was lying about his species. Was he a vampire, an immortal, a time traveller? I dug deeper into the envelope. There were bundles of cash, $100 bills wrapped in rubber band. And underneath the money, there was a single sheet of official-looking paper. It was a death certificate issued by the state of New York. My hands shook so hard the paper rattled. Name of deceased, Sneha Roy. Date of death, January 16th, 2025. Time of death, 11:42 p.m. Cause of death, blunt force trauma hypothermia following a vehicular accident. I looked at the dashboard clock. It was January 16th, 2025. The time was 11:38 p.m. 4 minutes. I was scheduled to die in 4 minutes. Oh my God, I whimpered. The paper slipped from my fingers. He wasn't taking me to a safe house. He was taking me to my execution. or he was planning to fake my death. Either way, the Sneha Roy I knew was about to cease to exist. I looked up. Liam was walking back to the car. He had a coffee cup in one hand and a bag of chips in the other. He looked casual, normal. But now I saw him for what he was, an ancient thing wearing a human mask. I shoved the passports and the death certificate back into the envelope. I tried to jam it back into the glove box, but my coordination was off. The envelope bent. It wouldn't fit. Panic. He was 5 feet. I shoved the envelope under my seat just as the door handle clicked. I threw my head back against the headrest and closed my eyes, feigning sleep. My heart was beating so loud I was sure he could hear it over the storm. The door opened. The cold air rushed in. The seat dipped as he sat down. The door slammed. Silence. He didn't start the car immediately. I could feel his eyes on me. He was studying me, checking for signs of consciousness. "You're a terrible actress, Sneha," he said quietly. My eyes snapped open. He wasn't looking at the road. He was looking at the glove compartment. It was slightly ajar. I hadn't latched it all the way. He looked down at the floor mat. I realised with horror that one of the passports, the 1891, had slipped out of the envelope and was peeking out from under my seat. Liam reached down and picked it up. He dusted it off gently. "Curiosity," he murmured, "is a dangerous trait for a prototype." "You're going to kill me," I whispered, pressing my back against the door. I saw the certificate. 11:42 p.m. That's in 2 minutes. Liam looked at the clock. 11:40 p.m. "I'm not going to kill you," he said, tucking the old ID into his coat pocket. "But Sneha Roy? Yeah, she has to die. She leaves too much of a digital footprint. She has friends, family, a history. If we are going to where I need to take you, you can't be you anymore." "I don't want to go," I screamed. "I want to go home. I want to be broke. I want my shitty apartment." "It's too late," he roared, slamming his hand on the dashboard. "They found us. Why do you think I triggered the extraction tonight? The architect's agents were in the building. Sneha. The mailman this morning." "That wasn't a mailman. The glitch in your phone? That was a trace." He started the engine. The car roared to life. "We have to stage the accident," he said, his voice dropping to a businesslike tone. "Mile marker 89. There's a ravine. I'm going to push this car over the edge." "What?" I stared at him in horror. "You said you weren't going to kill me." "I'm not," he said, shifting into gear. "We're not going to be in the car when it goes over." Suddenly, blue and red lights flashed in the rearview mirror. A siren wailed, cutting through the wind. A police cruiser. It pulled up right behind us, blocking us in. "Damn it!" Liam hissed. "Local law enforcement, not them, just a cop." He looked at me. "Do not say a word if you scream. If you try to signal him, I will have to kill him. And I don't want to kill an innocent man tonight. Do you understand? His blood will be on your hand." I bit my lip, tears stinging my eyes. A state trooper got out of the cruiser. He was wearing a wide-brimmed hat and a thick yellow raincoat. He walked toward Liam's window, tapping his flashlight. Liam rolled down the window halfway. The wind shrieked. "Evening, officer," Liam said. His voice changed instantly. It became the voice of a tired, concerned citizen. "Is there a problem? I was just getting coffee." The trooper shone his flashlight into the car. The beam hit Liam's face, then swung to me. I sat there, pale, trembling, looking like a hostage. "Rough night for a drive," the trooper said. He was an older man, grizzled. "We've got a travel ban in effect. Roads are closed north of here." I know, Liam said apologetically. "My wife, she's sick. We're trying to get to the specialist in Plattsburgh. It's urgent." "Wife?" The trooper looked at me again. "Ma'am, you okay?" This was my chance. Hour 11:41 p.m. 1 minute to my death. I could scream. I could mouth the words, "Help me." But I looked at Liam's hand. It was resting on his lap, but I saw the glint of something metallic in his sleeve. A blade? Or just the threat of his supernatural speed? "His blood will be on your hands." I looked at the trooper. He had kind eyes. He probably had kids. I stammered. Liam's hand twitched. "I'm just car sick," I managed to say. "Please, just let us go." The trooper studied me for a long, agonising second. Then he nodded. "All right, but take it slow. There's black ice everywhere. Don't want you folks becoming a statistic." "We'll be careful," Liam promised. The trooper tapped the roof of the car and walked back to his cruiser, and Liam rolled up the window. The silence returned. 11:42 p.m. "Good girl," Liam whispered. He put the car in drive and peeled out of the gas station, back onto the dark highway. "You missed your death time," he noted, glancing at the clock. That's good. It means we're changing the timeline. Where are we really going, Liam? I asked, defeated. I felt the drug pulling me back under. The adrenaline was fading. He looked straight ahead into the white void of the storm. We are going to the place where I was made, he said. We are going to the hidden laboratory under the Adirondacks. It's known as the Nursery. He paused, and for the first time he looked afraid. Because the thing growing inside of you, Sneha, it's not a baby, and it's almost time for it to hatch. My hands instinctively went to my stomach. I wasn't pregnant, I couldn't be. But as I pressed down, I felt it. Something hard, something pulsing, just beneath my skin. It wasn't a heartbeat. It was a ticking. My hands hovered over my stomach, fingers trembling against the fabric of my hoodie. The storm outside was a chaotic white void, swallowing the headlights of the SUV. But the chaos inside my body was far more terrifying. Tick, tick, tick. It wasn't audible to the naked ear. Not yet, but I could feel it. A rhythmic, mechanical thumping against my abdominal wall. It didn't feel like flesh and blood. It didn't feel like a kicking fetus. It felt like a piston firing. It felt like a countdown. Stop touching it, Liam said sharply. He didn't look away from the icy road. The speedometer read 80 miles per hour. Suicide speeds for these conditions. It hurts, I whispered. The pain was dull but constant, a gnawing sensation like something was chewing on my insides. Liam, what is it? You said it's not a baby. It's not, he replied, his knuckles white on the leather steering wheel. It's a resonance chamber, or at least that's what the architect calls it. I prefer to call it a seed. I felt bile rise in my throat. A seed? I'm a planter. You're the soil, Sneha. The richest, most fertile soil we could find in a century. He hit the brakes as the car fishtailed on a patch of black ice. The SUV drifted sideways, the tyre screaming against the frozen asphalt. For a second, we were floating, weightless, heading straight for the guardrail and the dark ravine beyond. With supernatural reflexes, Liam spun the wheel, correcting the slide. The car jerked back into the lane with a violent thud. My head slammed against the window. Stars exploded in my vision. Focus, he barked, though whether he was talking to me or himself, I couldn't tell. We have 20 miles to the perimeter. If your heart rate spikes too high, the seed will accelerate. You need to stay calm. Stay calm. I laughed, a hysterical, broken sound. I'm in a car with a cryptic immortal heading to a secret lab with an alien bomb in my uterus. How am I supposed to stay calm? Liam reached over and grabbed my hand. His skin was ice cold. Do you remember what you wrote in that post? He asked suddenly. The one you put on Facebook this morning. The question threw me off guard. What? You wrote, I want to see you for 16 hours a day. You wrote about watching me sleep. You wrote about my face in the morning. I stared at him. So? You thought that was love, he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. You thought that desire to be around me constantly, that obsession was romance. He glanced at me, his eyes dark and sorrowful. It wasn't romance, Sneha. It was programming. The air in the car seemed to freeze. What are you talking about? 16 hours, Liam repeated. That is the exact amount of active wakefulness required to harvest maximum serotonin and oxytocin levels from a human host. For 10 years, I wasn't just your boyfriend. I was your regulator. I had to keep you in a state of constant low-level emotional dependency, high enough to feed the seed, but not so high that you'd become independent. My mind flashed back. The times he woke me up with kisses just when I was in deep sleep. The way he would text me every hour when I was at work. The way he would sit and watch me paint, his eyes never leaving my face. I thought it was adoration. It was data collection. It was farming. You made me obsessed with you. I breathed, the horror sinking into my marrow. The pheromones, the tea, and the proximity, he admitted. The seed feeds on attachment. The more you loved me, the more you needed me, the stronger it grew. Why do you think I never let you succeed? Success breeds confidence. Confidence breeds detachment. I needed you broken. I needed you clinging to me like a drowning woman, because that desperation, that is the energy source. I yanked my hand away from his grip. You monster. I told you, he said, his face hardening. I am a guardian, and right now my job is to get you to the nursery before that thing hatches, because if it hatches out here, if it breaches in the open world, what happens? It eats, he said simply, everything. Suddenly, a high-pitched screeching sound filled the car. It came from the dashboard. The navigation screen turned bright red. Proximity alert, a target locked. Liam cursed. They found us. Who? The cleaners, he said. The architect sent the retrieval team. I looked out the back window. Through the swirling snow, I saw lights. Not police lights. These were blinding, stark white LED bars mounted on top of massive matte black armoured trucks. 2 of them. They were gaining on us fast, tearing through the snowdrifts like they weren't even there. Hold on, Liam said. He slammed his foot on the accelerator. The engine roared. The speedometer climbed. 90, 100. Liam, the ice! I screamed. We can't outrun them on the road, he gritted out. We have to go off-road. What? He jerked the wheel sharply to the right. We crashed through a metal gate, shattering the lock, and plunged into the dark, dense forest of the Adirondacks. The SUV barked and jumped, tearing over roots and frozen mud. Branches whipped against the windshield, cracking the glass. The headlights cut through the trees, revealing a nightmare landscape of snow and shadows. Behind us, the black trucks followed. They smashed through the trees, unstoppable. Tick, 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 tick! The sensation in my stomach sped up. It was reacting to the adrenaline. It was feeding on the fear. It's getting faster, I cried, clutching my abdomen. Heat was radiating from my stomach now, burning through my clothes. Liam, it burns! Suppress it, Liam yelled over the roar of the engine. Think of something boring. Do math. Count backwards from 1,000. Don't feed it fear. I can't. Bam! One of the black trucks rammed our rear bumper. The SUV spun. Liam fought the wheel, correcting the spin, but we lost momentum. The truck hit us again, harder this time. The back window shattered. Glass rained down on the back seat. I looked back. A man was leaning out of the passenger window of the chase truck. He was wearing a silver mask that covered his entire face, featureless except for a digital display where the eyes should be. He was holding a weapon. It looked like a harpoon gun, but the tip glowed with blue energy. Get down, Liam screamed. I ducked. The harpoon fired. It smashed through the rear windshield, flew over my head and embedded itself in the dashboard, inches from the radio. The blue energy pulsed and suddenly the car's electronics died. The engine cut out, the power steering failed, the lights went black. We were hurtling through the dark woods at 60 miles per hour in a dead metal box. Brace yourself! Liam threw his body over mine, shielding me. The SUV hit a massive oak tree. Crash! The sound of metal crumpling was deafening. The airbag didn't deploy. The electronics were fried. I felt the seatbelt dig into my chest, snapping a rib. The world spun violently and then silence. Just the sound of wind and the hissing of the radiator. Pain everywhere, but the sharpest pain was in my stomach. The thing was angry. It was thrashing now. Sneha! Liam's voice was groaned. He pulled himself up. Blood was streaming down his forehead, dark and thick. I'm alive, I wheezed. Not for long if we stay here, he said. He kicked his door open. It flew off its hinges. His strength was fully active now. He ran around to my side and ripped the door off like it was made of tin foil. He unbuckled me and dragged me out into the snow. The cold was instantaneous. It hit me like a physical wall, freezing the sweat on my skin. The snow was knee deep. Can you walk? He asked. My leg. I looked down. My right ankle was swollen, throbbing. I think it's sprained. Liam didn't hesitate. He scooped me up into his arms, bridal style. Hold on to my neck. Do not let go. He started to run. And when I say run, I don't mean a jog. I mean he blurred. He moved through the dense forest with the speed of a cheetah, leaping over fallen logs, weaving through trees. The wind whipped my face so hard I had to bury my head in his chest. Behind us, I heard the doors of the black trucks opening. I heard mechanical voices. Target acquired. Biological signature unstable. Initiate containment. They're coming. I sobbed. We're almost there, Liam panted. The entrance is near the frozen lake. The ticking in my stomach was now a drumbeat. Thump, thump, thump. And then I saw it. A faint blue glow coming from under my hoodie. Liam, I gasped. I'm glowing. He looked down. The blue light was pulsing through the fabric, illuminating the falling snow around us. The shell is cracking, he said, pushing himself faster. We have minutes. We burst out of the tree line and onto the edge of a vast frozen lake. The wind here was ferocious, a white-out blizzard. In the centre of the lake, there was a small, rocky island. There, Liam pointed, the nursery is under that island. But between us and the island was a mile of open ice, and behind us the tree line erupted with light. The cleaners emerged, 5 of them. They weren't human, they were cyborgs. tall metallic skeletons wrapped in synthetic flesh. They moved in perfect unison. One of them raised a hand. A beam of sonic energy shot out. It hit the ice near Liam's feet. The ice shattered, sending up a geyser of freezing water. Liam stumbled but kept his balance. He stepped onto the frozen lake. "Don't look back," he commanded. He ran across the ice. The sound of cracking followed us. The ice wasn't thick enough to support his weight and speed, but he was moving too fast to sink. Crack, crack, crack! Liam, the ice! I know. We were halfway to the island when the pain in my stomach became blinding. I screamed. The blue light intensified and it was blinding now. It's hatching, I shrieked. Get it out of me. Liam skidded to a halt. We were still 200 yards from the island. He looked at the island, then at the pursuing cyborgs, then at me. He realised we wouldn't make it. The cyborgs were faster on the ice. They were closing in. Liam set me down gently on the ice. The cold bit through my legging, but the heat from my stomach was melting the snow beneath me. What are you doing? I cried. Liam stood up, turning to face the 5 cleaners rushing towards us. He took off his coat underneath. His black tactical shirt was torn, revealing skin that was marked with glowing runes, ancient scars that pulsed with golden light. I can't get you to the door in time, he said, his voice calm, resigned. So I have to buy you time. He looked down at me. For the first time in 10 years, his eyes were completely human, vulnerable. Sneha, listen to me. When the thing comes out, do not fight it. Accept it. Bond with it. If you fight it, it will kill you. If you accept it, you become the weapon. What? No, Liam, don't leave me. I promised I'd take care of you. He smiled, a sad, broken smile. Even if I have to burn for it. He turned his back. He faced the oncoming army of machines. He raised his hands and the golden runes on his skin flared. The air around him began to distort. The snow stopped falling in a 10-foot radius around him. Run to the island, Sneha! He roared. Crawl if you have to. Go! Then he launched himself at the cyborgs. 1 man against 5 death machines. I watched in horror as he collided with the lead cleaner. The impact sounded like a bomb going off. Metal screeched. Sparks flew. Liam ripped the arm off the first machine with his bare hands, using it to bludgeon the second, but they were overwhelming him. I saw a blade pierce his shoulder. I saw blue blood. His blood spray onto the white ice. Go! He screamed again. Without looking back, I turned and crawled. I dragged my broken body across the ice, tears freezing on my face. The ticking in my stomach stopped. It was replaced by a vibration, a hum, and a voice. Not Liam's voice, not my voice. A voice inside my head, ancient, cold, hungry. Mother, it was. We are almost home. I looked at the rocky island. A massive steel door was slowly opening in the side of the rock, triggered by the proximity of the sea side. But standing in the doorway was a figure. It wasn't a cyborg. It was a woman. She was wearing a white lab coat. She looked elegant, severe. She stepped out onto the ice, flanked by 2 guards. She looked at me, crawling toward her. Then she looked past me, at Liam fighting for his life. She smiled. Welcome back, Subject Zero, she called out to me. I squinted through the pain. Oh, I knew that face. I had seen it in old newspapers. I'd seen it in history books. It was the face of a scientist who disappeared in 1950. But more terrifyingly, she had the same eyes as Liam. Hello, Mother, she said. And then I blacked out. White, blinding, clinical, sterilised white. It was the first thing I saw when I opened my eyes, not the soft white of a snowfall, but the harsh, humming white of fluorescent tubes buzzing overhead. The smell hit me next. Ozone, antiseptic, and the coppery tang of old blood. I tried to sit up, but my body refused to obey. I wasn't paralysed by fear this time. I was physically restrained. Thick leather straps bound my wrists and ankles to a cold metal table. My head was cradled in a cushioned vice, keeping me looking straight up. Vital signs stabilising, a robotic voice announced from somewhere in the ceiling. Host integration at 94%. I blinked, trying to lubricate my dry eyes. I wasn't in a hospital. The ceiling was made of rough hewn rock, fitted with high-tech lighting rigs. I was in a cave, a laboratory built inside the earth, the nursery. Liam, I croaked. My throat felt like I had swallowed glass. He's alive for now. The voice came from my right. The sound of heels clicking on a metal floor echoed through the chamber. I strained my eyes to the side. The woman from the ice, the one with the white lab coat and the severe, elegant face, stepped into my field of vision. Up close, she looked even more terrifying. Her skin was flawless, almost synthetic, but her eyes, they were ancient. She was holding a clipboard in one hand and a small velvet box in the other. A ring box. Who are you? I whispered. I have had many names, she said, her voice smooth and devoid of empathy. In the 1950s, the press called me Dr. Eleanor Vance. The architect calls me the matriarch, but you can call me the in-law. She smiled, a thin, cruel curving of red lips. In-law? Technically, she mused, tapping the clipboard, since you are about to merge with my life's work and Liam is the guardian of that work, we are all about to become one big, unhappy family. Where is he? I demanded, tugging at the straps. Where is Liam? Eleanor pressed a button on a console near the wall. A heavy blast shield slid open, revealing an observation window, or rather a cell. My heart shattered. Liam was suspended in the centre of a glass cylinder. He was stripped to the waist, his body a map of bruises and lacerations. Thick cables were attached to his chest, glowing with the same blue light that had pulsed from my stomach. He wasn't dead, but he looked broken. His head hung low, his dark hair matted with blood. Liam! I screamed. His head snapped up. His eyes found me through the glass. They were wide, filled with a frantic desperation. He mouthed something. I couldn't hear him, but I could read his lips. Don't say yes. He fought bravely, Eleanor said, walking back to my table. She looked at Liam with a mix of admiration and disgust. Took down 4 of my MKI-4 cyborgs before we subdued him. He always was the best of the prototypes, the only one who developed a conscience. Pity it made him weak. He's not a prototype, I spat. He's a person. He is a biological construct created in 1890, Eleanor corrected casually, designed to be the perfect guardian. He doesn't age, he heals instantly, and he is programmed to protect the vessel. That's you, my dear. She placed the velvet ring box on my chest. It felt heavy. Open it, she commanded. I can't move my hands, I snarled. Oh, right, she reached down and flipped the lid open for me. Inside sat a diamond ring. It was modest, vintage, a simple gold band with a small cloudy diamond. My breath hitched. I recognised it. I had seen it in Liam's sock drawer 3 years ago. I thought he was hiding it because he was waiting for the right moment. I had waited 3 years for him to put this on my finger. We found it in his pocket, Eleanor said. He was going to ask you tonight before the extraction. He wanted to marry you, Sneha. He thought if he bound you to him with a human ritual, maybe he could save you from the destiny we wrote for you. She laughed softly. How quaint! A monster playing house. He loved me, I whispered, tears leaking from the corners of my eyes. He loved the mission, Eleanor said sharply. He confused the programming with affection. But let's talk about you. And the thing inside you. She leaned in, her face inches from mine. So, the seed is ready to hatch, but it needs permission. It's a symbiotic organism. If it forces its way out, it kills the host. But if the host accepts it, if the host invites it in, the two become a new entity, a goddess. I won't do it, I said, shaking my head. I'd rather die. I thought you might say that. Eleanor reached into her lab coat and pulled out a gun. It wasn't a normal gun. It looked like a flare gun, chunky and metallic, loaded with a glowing red canister. She didn't point it at me. She turned and pointed it at the glass cylinder, at Liam. This is an anti-regenerative caustic agent, she explained. It dissolves cells at a molecular level and it stops the healing factor. If I pull this trigger, Liam doesn't just die. He melts and he will feel every second of it. My blood ran cold. You wouldn't, I gasped. He's your whatever he is to you. He is a tool that has outlived his usefulness. She shrugged. I have you now. I don't need the guardian. She cocked the hammer of the gun. Click. Here is the proposal, Sneha. The final offer, you say yes to the seed. You let it merge with your nervous system. You become the vessel we need. If you do, I let Liam go. I wipe his memory, give him a new identity and set him free to live a normal mortal life. He won't remember you, but he will live. And if I refuse, then I melt him right now in front of you. And then I strap you down and surgically extract the seed anyway, leaving you a hollow, lobotomized shell. I looked at Liam through the glass. He was shaking his head violently. He was shouting now, banging his fist against the glass. Let me die! Don't do it! I looked at the ring on my chest. I looked at the gun in Eleanor's hand. 10 years. He had given me 10 years of his life. He had starved with me. He had frozen with me. He had protected me from the world, even if his methods were twisted. He was a monster, yes, but he was my monster. And I realised something else. The voice in my head, the seed, wasn't just hungry. It was lonely. It felt like me. It felt like the part of me that was always empty, the part that failed at art, the part that never felt good enough. It was a void waiting to be filled. If I do this, I said, my voice trembling, if I say yes, do you promise he walks away? I promise, Eleanor said. I am a scientist, not a sadist. I closed my eyes. I reached out with my mind, down into the dark of my own stomach. Hello, I thought. Mother, the voice replied. It sounded like a choir of 1,000 whispers. We are waiting. Sneha, don't! Liam's voice came over the intercom. Eleanor had unmuted him. Sneha, listen to me. It will consume your soul. You won't be you anymore. I was never anyone anyway, Liam, I said, tears streaming down my cheeks. I was just a failed artist. At least this way, I can be your saviour. I opened my eyes and looked at Eleanor. I accept, I said. Eleanor smiled, a genuine, terrifying smile. Excellent. She lowered the gun. She pressed a button on her remote. Initiating synthesis. A massive machine above me roared to life. A laser array descended, focusing on my abdomen. The room began to vibrate. The pain returned, but this time it wasn't hurting me. It was becoming me. Blue light erupted from my chest, blindingly bright. I felt my veins burning as the alien DNA rewrote my genetic code. My mind felt like it was being torn apart and stitched back together with lightning. Memory, not mine. I saw stars dying. I saw worlds burning. I saw the void between galaxies. I saw the architect, a being of pure geometry and malice. And amidst the chaos, I heard a gunshot. Bang! The sound cut through the psychic scream. The machine hesitated. The blue light flickered. I gasped, fighting the integration, forcing my eyes open. The glass cylinder was shattered. Liam was on the floor of the lab. He had broken out and he was bleeding from a dozen wounds, smoke rising from his skin, but he was standing. And Eleanor was looking down at her chest. There was a hole in her white lab coat, a red, expanding stain. Liam held the flare gun, the one she had put down on the console. He had moved so fast, even in his weakened state. He was faster than her. You... Eleanor gasped, blood bubbling from her lips. You ungrateful dog. She collapsed to the floor. Stop the machine! Liam roared, scrambling toward the console. But he was too late. The process had crossed the threshold. Integration 100% complete. The room went silent. The machine powered down. I lay on the table. But I wasn't Sneha anymore. Or maybe I was Sneha Plus. I sat up. The leather straps didn't unbuckle. They snapped. I tore through the reinforced leather like it was wet paper. I swung my legs off the table. My feet touched the cold metal floor. I didn't feel the cold. I didn't feel the pain. I felt power, a limitless, intoxicating power. I looked at my hands. They were glowing with a soft, bioluminescent blue aura. The veins in my arms looked like rivers of light. Ekathampe. Liam stood by the console, freezing in place. He looked at me with a mixture of hope and absolute terror. Sneha, he whispered. I looked at him. My vision had changed. I didn't just see a man. I saw his heat signature. I saw his heart beating, a bruised, tired muscle. I saw the nanobots in his blood trying to stitch his wound. I stood up and I felt taller. The matriarch is dead, I said. My voice echoed, sounding like two people speaking at once, me and the thing. Liam took a step back. He raised his hands. Sneha, tell me you're still in there. I looked at the ring box still sitting on the table. I picked it up. I took the diamond ring out. I slid it onto my finger. It fit perfectly. I looked at Liam and smiled. But it wasn't the smile of the girl who couldn't pay her rent. It was the smile of a predator who had just reached the top of the food chain. I'm here, Liam. I said, I'm finally complete. Suddenly, the red alarm lights in the lab began to flash. Warning, containment breach. Self-destruct sequence initiated. T-minus 60 seconds. Eleanor, Liam cursed, looking at the dead woman. She had a dead man switch. If her heart stops, the facility blows. He looked at me. We have to go now. Run? I tilted my head. Why should we run? I looked at the massive blast doors at the end of the lab. Behind them, I could hear more cyborgs coming, an army of them. Sneha, the place is going to explode, Liam yelled, grabbing my arm. I looked at his hand on my arm. Then I looked at the blast doors. Let them come, I said. I'm hungry. I raised my hand toward the blast doors. The steel crumpled. It folded inward like tin foil, ripped from its hinges by an invisible force. force coming from my mind. Beyond the doors, a corridor full of armed soldiers and mechs waited. They opened fire. Bullets flew toward me. I didn't dodge. I raised a shield of pure energy. The bullets disintegrated against the blue light. I turned to Liam. You wanted a masterpiece, Liam. You wanted to paint on a blank canvas. I floated a few inches off the ground, my hair turning white, glowing with the energy of a star. Watch me paint, I whispered. Watch me paint. The words left my lips, not as a whisper, but as a command that vibrated through the very molecular structure of the air. I didn't raise a hand. I didn't need to. I simply willed it. The corridor ahead, packed with heavily armoured cyborgs and soldiers, erupted. It wasn't an explosion of fire. It was an explosion of gravity. The soldiers were lifted off their feet, screaming as the laws of physics bent around. With a flick of my mind, I compressed the air in the hallway. Crunch. The sound was wet and metallic. In a nanosecond, 50 heavily armed units were flattened into a single dense sphere of scrap metal and organic matter. It hovered in the air for a moment, dripping oil and blood before I let it drop to the floor with a heavy thud. Behind me, Liam gasped, Sneha, to minus 45 seconds. The automated voice blared. The red strobe lights spun faster, painting the lab in chaotic flashes of crimson. I turned to Liam. He looked small now, fragile. The man who had seemed like an indestructible god for 10 years was just a collection of biological matter, holding a wound in his side. I could see the fear in his eye, not fear of dying, but fear of me. We have to go, I said, my voice echoed, sounding like a choir singing in a cathedral. The elevator is cut off, Liam shouted, stumbling toward me. The blast doors are sealed. We're trapped underground. I smiled. It felt strange on my face. Too wide, too perfect. We are not trapped, Liam. We are merely planted. I walked over to him. The floor melted slightly under my bare feet, leaving glowing blue footprints in the steel. I reached out and touched his face. My skin was burning hot, radiating the energy of a small sun, but I willed it not to burn him. Hold on to me, I ordered. He gripped my waist. Sneha, the rock above us, is 300 feet thick, solid granite. Granite is just atom, I whispered, and atoms can be moved. T-minus 30 seconds. I looked up at the jagged stone ceiling of the cave. I closed my eyes and reached out with the seed, the entity inside me. I felt the earth. I felt the layers of soil, the frozen lake above, the swirling storm. I crouched low, gathering power in my legs. The blue light intensified, blindingly bright, turning the red warning lights into insignificant shadows. Close your eyes, I told him. Boom! We launched. We didn't just jump, we ascended. I became a missile of pure kinetic energy. We hit the ceiling, but there was no impact. I disintegrated the rock before it could touch us, creating a tunnel of vaporized stone as we flew upward. We tore through the earth, through the bedrock, through the frozen soil. To minus 10 seconds. We burst through the surface of the frozen lake. We shot into the night sky, a streak of blue lightning amidst the raging blizzard. Below us, deep underground, the self-destruct sequence hit zero. The ground shuddered. The ice on the lake cracked and heaved. A dull, muffled thump echoed from the depths, and the centre of the island collapsed inward, swallowed by the earth. A plume of smoke and snow erupted from the crater, but the fire was contained. We were safe, hovering 500 feet in the air, suspended in the eye of the storm. I looked down at the destruction. It felt insignificant, like an anthill being stepped on. You can put me down now, Liam said. His voice was shaking. I lowered us slowly, landing gently on the edge of the frozen lake, far from the collapsing crater. The snow around us melted instantly, creating a circle of steam and black earth. Liam let go of me and stumbled back, falling onto the snow. He clutched his side, coughing. Blue blood leaked between his fingers. His regenerative abilities were failing. The fight with the cyborgs had taxed him too much, and the proximity to my radiation was interfering with his nanobots. I stood over him. The wind whipped my hair, which was no longer dark brown, but a shimmering, translucent white. My clothes were tattered, but the blue energy covered me like a gown of light. You're dying, I stated. It wasn't a question. I could see his life force flickering like a dying candle. "I'll heal," he wheezed, trying to sit up. I just need time away from you. Your energy, it's dampening my cells." He looked up at me, shielding his eyes from my glow. "Sneha, the seed, it's fully integrated. I am the goddess you spoke of," I finished. "I feel everything, Liam. I can hear the thoughts of the people in the town 10 miles away. I can feel the rotation of the planet. I can feel the hunger of the stars." I looked at my hand. The engagement ring, the simple gold band with the cloudy diamond, was still there. It looked almost comical on my glowing finger, a tiny piece of human metal on the hand of a deity. "The architect was right," I said, my voice losing its human cadence. "This world, it's so small, so fragile. I could snap it in half." "No." Liam scrambled to his feet, ignoring the pain. He grabbed my shoulders. His hands sizzled against my skin, but he didn't let go. "Sneha, listen to me. Fight it. You are Sneha Roy. You love bad reality TV. You burn toast. You're an artist." "I am an artist," I agreed, tilting my head. "But my canvas has changed." I looked at the horizon. "I need to feed, Liam. The energy required to sustain this form, I can't get it from food. I need thermal energy. I need to drain the core of this planet." Liam went pale. "If you do that, everything dies. Everyone dies. But we will live," I said. "We can leave. We can find a dead world and make it a paradise. Just us." "That's not living," Liam pleaded. Tears froze on his cheeks. "That's consuming. Sneha, look at me. Look at the man you loved for 10 years. Look at the man who washed your dishes." He held up his hand, showing me his own scars. "You posted about it, remember? You said, 'I want to see you for 16 hours a day.' You said I was your world. If you destroy this world, you destroy the memory of us." I looked at him, deep into his dark, ancient eyes, and for a second the blue light dimmed. The roar of the cosmic hunger in my head quieted. I saw the man who had bought me a Kit Kat when I had a headache, the man who had held my hair back, the man who had sacrificed his immortality to save me from the ice. He was right. The entity wanted to consume, but Sneha wanted to love. But I couldn't do both. If I stayed on Earth, my hunger would eventually win. I would drain the heat from the atmosphere. I would cause a new ice age just by existing. "I can't stay," I whispered. The dual voice faded, leaving just my own broken voice. "Liam, I'm too dangerous." "We can fix it," Liam said desperately. "There are suppressors. We can go to the architect. We can... No." I shook my head. "The integration is permanent. There is no going back." I looked at the ring on my finger. "You wanted to make me Mrs. Anderson." I smiled sadly. "You wanted to give me a name, a life." "I still do," he choked out. "But Mrs. Anderson is a human," I said, "and I am something else." I took a step back. The snow around me began to rise, defying gravity. "I have to go, Liam. I have to go where there is nothing to hurt. I have to go to the stars." "Take me with you," he begged. He tried to step forward, but his legs gave out. He fell to his knees in the mud. "I can't," I said, tears of liquid light streaming down my face. "You are biological. Space will kill you. And if I try to protect you, I'll drain you dry." I knelt down in front of him. I kissed his forehead. My lips burned of his skin, leaving a small golden mark, a brand. "This is my promise," I whispered into his mind. "I will go. I will find a way to control this. I will find a way to separate the hunger from the heart. And when I do, I will come back." "How long?" Liam whispered, gripping my hand. "How long do I have to wait?" I looked up at the night sky, at the infinite spread of the galaxy. Time meant nothing to me now. "I don't know," I admitted. "A year, a century, a millennium." Liam looked at me. The fear was gone from his eyes, replaced by that same old patient resolve. The resolve of a man who had waited since 1890. "I'm immortal, Sneha," he said, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. "Time is the only thing I have." He squeezed my hand one last time. "Go, paint the universe, but come back to me. I love you." I said, "I love you more," he replied. "More than you could ever understand." I stood up, so I focused my energy. The blue light exploded outward, turning the night into day. I didn't fly this time. I teleported. I became a beam of pure light shooting upward, piercing the clouds, piercing the atmosphere, leaving the earth behind. I was gone. The coffee shop in Brooklyn was busy. The smell of roasted beans and rain filled the air. In the corner, by the window, a man sat alone. He was handsome, in a a timeless sort of way. He wore a simple grey sweater and a coat that looked a bit too old-fashioned. He had a cup of black coffee in front of him, but he wasn't drinking it. He was looking at his phone. He was reading a Facebook post, an old post from months ago. 10 years, I'm still unemployed, still struggling, but he stayed. Liam smiled faintly. He scrolled down to the comments. People had written, stay strong. He sounds like a keeper. Marry him. And he put the phone down. He looked out the window at the busy street. People were rushing by, living their short, frantic lives. They had no idea that a goddess was watching over them from the dark side of the moon. They had no idea that the blizzard last winter wasn't just weather. He touched the scar on his forehead, a small golden burn mark that never faded, and it pulsed warmly whenever he looked at the star. The waitress walked over. She was young, pretty. Can I get you anything else? She asked, flashing him a flirtatious smile. Maybe a pastry? Liam looked at her. He looked at the fresh croissants. He remembered a bakery in Manhattan. He remembered a girl who couldn't afford an eclair. No, Liam said softly. I'm just waiting for someone. Oh, the waitress lingered. Is she late? Liam looked up at the sky where the first stars were beginning to appear in the twilight. Yeah, he said, she's going to be a little late, maybe 100 years or so. The waitress laughed, thinking it was a joke. Wow, that's some dedication. She must be special. Liam twisted the empty ring box in his pocket with his thumb. She is, he said. She's my masterpiece. He picked up his coffee, took a sip and settled back into his chair. The world kept turning. The seasons would change. Decades would pass. Empires would fall. But the man in the corner would stay. He would always stay.